today's video is going to be talking about pedestrian crossing. Everything to do with pedestrian crossings. What are the types of pedestrian crossings we have? The categories of pedestrian crossing we have. As a driver, what are you meant to do when you're approaching a pedestrian crossing? What is actually pedestrian crossing in itself? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Right. It's no news at all that as a driver, you have to look after the vulnerable road users. One of the categories of road users that are classified to be vulnerable is pedestrian. Of course, we talk about cyclists as well, but today we're going to be focusing just on pedestrian, and specifically we'll be focusing on pedestrian crossing. Now, pedestrian crossing is a designated section on the road that it's there for pedestrians to be able to cross the road safely. So as a pedestrian, you're meant to identify with this section on the road called a pedestrian crossing, regardless of the type it is. And also as a driver, you're meant to be able to identify with these crossings as well. So you know exactly what is expected of you as a driver to look after any pedestrians at the pedestrian crossing. Now, if you don't want to get into trouble, i.e. you don't want to, have your KFC without chips, you need to watch this video. Now, when we talk about categories of pedestrian crossing, one category would be pedestrian crossing that is not controlled by any traffic light. The second category is obviously the one controlled by the light. So when we talk about pedestrian crossing that is not controlled by the light, on top of that list will be zebra crossing. And a zebra crossing, as the name signify, a zebra will usually have a white and black skin. So it's called zebra crossing because it's named after the animal. So the black and white symbol is what helps us to identify with a zebra crossing. So when you spot anything to denote black and white, such as painting the floor black and white, which is not very common these days, but you can have the pole next to the hidden side of this crossing to be, the pole will be in black and white most often than not. So that to you is telling you you're about or you're approaching a zebra crossing. Now, also under this category of pedestrian crossing not controlled by the lights is the lollipop lady or man. You will see that in school crossing where you will see someone in a reflective gear stopping people on the road with the lollipop. Now, lollipop usually will come up with, a stick with a lollipop on top of it, and it's boldly written on it, it says stop. Now, I'm just going to stay on that school crossing for a second when you've got to do with the lollipop man or the lollipop lady controlling the traffic for the sake of ensuring the children cross the road safely. Say, for example, when you see the lollipop man or lady with the stick and the stop sign facing down, that simply means they are on the pavement. They don't intend to stop the traffic just yet. But when you see them walking towards the edge of the pavement, towards the road, and they're holding the stick diagonally, this is to signify to the driver, please prepare to stop. I'm about to stop, step on the road to stop the traffic. Now, once they're already in the middle of the road, they will hold the stick up and the stop sign will be facing the sky. That's when they're stopping the road. So I guess it's very imperative to stick that in. The way they hold the stick, the lollipop stick, is very important. So you see them holding it down, the stop sign is facing the tarmac or the floor, they're on the pavement, they don't intend to stop the traffic. But if they hold it diagonally, they're saying to the traffic, I'm stepping on the road in a second, please be prepared to stop. And obviously when they're right in the middle of the road, the lollipop stick, the stop sign is facing the sky. So that's the lollipop man or lady controlling the traffic for the very purpose of ensuring the children cross the road safely. Now let's move on to the next one. I was talking about zebra crossing before I kind of digress into lollipop lady or man, controlling the traffic. So we're going to move away from zebra crossing onto the rest of the pedestrian crossing that are controlled by the light. So under those crossing controlled by the light, we've got the most popular one. We've got the Pelican crossing, which I'm going to kind of describe what they are in a minute, but I'm just going to list them first. We also got Puffin crossing, and we've got Toucan crossing. The last one I would like to talk about, which is very popular in the UK, is called hybrid crossing. I'm going to tell you what they mean in a minute, but for the time being, I'm going to drive towards a zebra crossing just to show you what that looks like in a minute. I think I should put this camera on so I can have the road view of exactly what I'm talking about. So at the moment, I'm about to turn left. I've checked my blind spot just to ensure there's no cyclist there. Safety is really key in all that you do. So at the moment, I'm driving on this road. I know, because I've been on this road before, that there's a zebra crossing ahead. How do I spot this? I can see black and white stripe on the pole. On the right side is also on the left. So I'm going to ease off the gas, scan across, there's no pedestrian about, center right door mirror, I'm going to go back on my gas. So that's how to deal with zebra crossing. I believe there's one more zebra crossing on the way. Just making sure that is okay. So already I can see from afar there's a black and white stripe on the pole on either side of the road. That to me signifies it's just where the silver car is joining the road. Signify there's a zebra crossing coming. So I'm easing off the gas. I'm scanning across the crossing to see if there's any pedestrian hanging about. There isn't any pedestrian hanging about. I'm checking my center right door mirror. It's safe to pick up the speed. I'm going to pick up the speed. Now center right door mirror, I'm trying to turn right. I'm going to pop my right signal on. I'm just going to find somewhere to pull up to have a chat about exactly what routine you need to follow when you are dealing with zebra crossing, regardless of what type of crossing that you're dealing with. This is, without a doubt, the test standard. You want to pass your test whenever you come across a pedestrian on the road, particularly at a pedestrian crossing. You don't want to have your KFC without chips, and you get into trouble with the examiner, resulting to a fail. This video is meant for you, so don't joke with it. I'm just gonna deal with this car in front of me for a second. It's not being considerate at all. I've done all the job for us then to make sure that we're both safe on the road. Meanwhile, it was supposed to be teamwork. It's supposed to be a teamwork shared between every road user that you come across, but some of these drivers can be quite selfish, for a lack of better word. Okay, so let's have a shot, shall we? Just before that, I'm going to ensure this camera is actually working. It is working. That's a good job. Okay, now it doesn't matter what pedestrian crossing that you're coming across, whether it's categorized as the one being controlled by the light, the one not being controlled by the light, like I've mentioned earlier. You have to follow the same set of routine, which is the MSM routine. MSM routine, the moment you spot the hazard, in this case it's a pedestrian crossing, so will be classified as a potential hazard. What do? You need to stop the gas. So that will give you time to look, assess, decide, and take the appropriate action. So once I spot the pedestrian crossing ahead, like I was saying about a minute or two before now, I spot this zebra crossing far ahead. So it's a good practice when you're driving to be able to spot or fish out the hazard well in advance. So that will give you ample time to deal with the hazard the most appropriate and the most efficient way. So assuming I spot the zebra crossing ahead, I want to apply my MSM routine. I'm going to ease off the gas and check my center mirror. Why am I checking my center mirror? Because I want to see who is behind me and how close they are. So I've checked my center mirror, and the next thing I'm going to do is, MSM. How do you signal? You signal by just coming off your gas, and eventually you might signal by braking to show your brake light to the guy behind you that you're slowing down or planning to stop for the zebra crossing. But before we get to that, do we need to use a signal? Well, that depends on what you see happening or developing at the zebra crossing or any crossing whatsoever. So I'm going to scan across the crossing from right to left, left to right. All I'm doing is to try and decide, is there a need to signal by braking, showing my brake light to the traffic behind me? If there is no single pedestrian on any side of the road, I really don't need to signal. All I need to do then is to check my center right door mirror. Because I have dropped my speed, I have to check my center right door mirror before I go back on the gas, because I've decided it's safe to carry on. Before you go back on your gas, you need to check your center right door mirror, because the road user behind you might decide, okay, this guy in front of me is too slow for my liking, I'm going to overtake. And if someone is overtaking you, you can't go on the gas, otherwise you're going to turn the road to, Formula One. You can't be competing on the road. So assuming there is no one overtaking, you can go back on the gas. That's scenario one. Now the second scenario is this. I'm approaching a crossing. I spot there's a crossing coming. I'm going to check my center mirror. That's M, part of the MSM. Now in this occasion, I could see there's someone trying to cross the road using the pedestrian crossing. All I need to do is now to use my signal. How do I signal? I will signal by braking. My brake light will signify, from the word signal, signify to the people behind me that I'm slowing down for the pedestrian crossing ahead. So once I slow down, depending on how long it took the pedestrian to cross the road or how many pedestrians are at the pedestrian crossing, I'm going to keep braking, maybe brake to a stop. Obviously, there's a stop line just before the pedestrian crossing if I need to stop altogether. So once I stop, allow the pedestrian to complete their crossing. Now I'm going to set off. Just before I set off, I'm checking my center right door mirror. Make sure there's no one overtaking. I'll go back on the gas. So that's how to deal with any type of pedestrian crossing whatsoever. Now, if you have to deal with pedestrian crossing controlled by the lights, such as Pelican crossing, Puffin crossing, Toucan, hybrid, you might need to do an extra task, which is you need to learn to anticipate what will happen to the lights. Say, for example, one scenario might be you're approaching a pedestrian crossing, which is controlled by the lights. Let's say, for the sake of argument, is a Puffin crossing. I'm going to tell you what those are in a minute. Now, Puffin crossing, you're approaching it. For now, Puffin crossing is a pedestrian crossing, I should say, controlled by the lights. What do I need to do? It's on green. I'm going to follow my MSM routine. First, I'm going to check my center mirror to check who is behind me. So when I decide to use the brake, I want to see how my brake will affect them, how close they are to me. Now then, and then I'm going to scan across. Yes, the light is green for me to carry on, but I need to anticipate, what if the light turns to red? How can I anticipate the light will turn to red? It's simple. When I scan across from right to left or left to right, I want to see if there's a pedestrian there. If there's a pedestrian standing next to the pole or to the light, the first thing that comes to mind is they would have activated the button, or the button, they would have pressed it so that they wouldn't get the light to turn in their favor or to their favor, whichever is correct. So once I can spot someone is standing there, then the next thing I need to do is to anticipate the light might change. So all I'm doing, about 3 car lengths away from that green light, seeing someone is standing next to the light, I'm going to ease up my gas, anticipating the light might turn to red. So I'm already in the mood to stop the car. Let's say, for the sake of argument, the light did not turn to red and I'm a car length away from the stop line just before the crossing. I'm going to check my center right door mirror and go back on the gas. This time around, I'm just going to double up a little bit on the gas just to cross the line. And at that point, it doesn't matter if the light changed anymore because I've already crossed the line, because I'm just 1 car length away at that point in time. All this scenario might be, I anticipated the lights would change to red, and when I'm about 2 car lengths away thereabout, the lights start to change. Well, I've already prepared for that. I've already anticipated that was going to happen. Easy peasy. I'm going to go my brake, start to brake nice and early, stop the car, and wait for the light to turn back to green. Once the light turns back to green, I'm going to check my center right door mirror, ensure that no one is crossing even when the light asks them not to cross. Remember, green light means go if it's safe. You still have to do your due diligence. You just need to be proactive with it. The light turns to green on this occasion. No one is crossing. I'm back on the gas. Happy days. So that's how to deal with pedestrian crossing control by daylight. Now, let's talk about this pedestrian crossing control by the light. So I've mentioned earlier, it's a Puffin crossing. A Puffin crossing, you can easily identify with those. They come with, like, it looks like a traffic light, but it's not a traffic light, because they have this box fixed on them. This box, you have a button that pedestrian can press to get the light to change in their favor so they can cross the road safely and get the drivers to stop for them to cross. But one thing that is peculiar with the Puffin crossing, and this is going to be helpful for those of you preparing for your theory test, is they do come with what we call infrared camera. It's a special type of camera that denotes or that detects the heat coming out from the skin. And once you get close to that infrared camera, the lights would quickly turn in your favor, i.e., the light will turn to green for pedestrians and red for drivers for them to cross the road. Now imagine an old person crosses the road and they took their time. As let's say they take, for the sake of argument, it takes them 5 minutes to cross the road. The light will remain green for that pedestrian to complete their crossing. In other words, it will be red for 5 minutes for drivers to wait for the person to complete their crossing. If the camera on the other side of the road hasn't detected the heat coming out from the same person on the other side, which then signifies to the camera the person has completed the crossing, it will not turn to green in favor of the drivers. So that's one thing that is peculiar with a Puffin crossing. And most often than not, if the light is done in a proper way, the Puffin crossing, you will usually see on the box like a green man or a green person, if you like, or a red person. That's how you can easily tell, depending on what mood the light is on. That's why you can tell on approach what type of light you're actually, or what type of crossing I should say, you're actually approaching. So that's a Puffin crossing. The next one is a Pelican crossing. How can you tell those? Yes, they are controlled by the light like I mentioned earlier, but they tend to have 2 states on the box. One time you will see it blank or gray out, so to speak. The other time you will see it on red and it says wait. Actually, the actual word wait. That's usually a Pelican crossing. Now with Pelican crossing, one thing is peculiar with the crossing. Other pedestrian crossing controlled by the light goes red, amber, green, and vice versa. But this Pelican crossing, it has a funny habit of when it gets to amber, you want to spend few seconds there. We call it flashing amber light. It keeps flashing at you. Now, for those of you preparing for your theory test, this comes useful as well, because the Pelican crossing, they might ask you in the questions, What does it mean when you see this flashing amber light? It's also useful for those of you doing your practical test as well. Because if you see a flashing amber light and you're just waiting there, the examiner turn around and say, "Wow, we're still waiting," you might fail your test for that singular reason. So what does it really mean when you see flashing amber light? It means you should scan across, make sure there's no one crossing. If there's no one crossing, you are allowed to proceed or carry on with your driving. You don't need to wait for the green light to carry on. So that's one thing that is peculiar with Pelican crossing. If the flashing amber is on and someone is still crossing the road, you must wait. But if there's no one about, you can carry on driving. The next one controlled by the light is called Toucan crossing. Toucan. What's peculiar with Toucan? Toucan means both the cyclist and the pedestrian can cross at the same time at this crossing. So this crossing is designed for the use of both pedestrian and the cyclist. You have to be very careful when it comes to this crossing, because the cyclists, they are in the habit of not actually doing the crossing the right way. They might decide to ride across the crossing diagonally. So I advise my student, please check your blind spots when you're waiting to carry on at a Toucan crossing. How do you spot those? Easy peasy. On the box, you will see the picture of a bicycle and a person. This could either be in green or red. So that's a Toucan crossing. The final one, which I think is the easiest bit, and I'm going to come to differentiating between a traffic light and a pedestrian crossing in a minute. Why am I talking about traffic lights? That's because we need to discuss the hybrid light. From the word hybrid, okay, it sounds like it has two functions. Yes, it does. So this is a normal traffic light. I said normal, maybe I should have said abnormal traffic light that has a pedestrian crossing built into it. What do I mean? So it's a traffic light that controls the traffic at a junction, but at the same time, it has these boxes fixed on the light that pedestrian can cross at that or such junction. But it's easy to determine when to go, because at hybrid lights, if pedestrian crossings are allowed to cross, i.e. on the bus they can see green for them to cross, all the traffic at that junction, it doesn't matter which angle they are, even at a crossroad, to the right, to the left, front, back, they're all gonna be on red. In other words, the pedestrian will have the privilege to cross. So for us as a driver, we see the light is on red, we wait. If it's on green, you expect the pedestrians to be told to wait, i.e. they will see red on the box asking them to wait. So that's the hybrid light. I hope that helps. But what I'm going to do in the next couple of clips is try and drive around and see if we can come across some of this crossing. Stay tuned. Yes, there's something else that we need to talk about, because sometimes people fail their test for this reason. When the examiner said to you, turn right at the next traffic light, they expect you at the stage you are, saying that you are test ready, to be able to differentiate between a traffic light and a pedestrian crossing. Remember I said before, some pedestrian crossings are controlled by the lights. So they might appear to some new drivers that pedestrian crossing is a traffic light. So you need to be very careful. So how can you differentiate between the two? Well, it's almost very easy, but a bit tricky sometimes. So you would differentiate between the two if you see a light ahead. The light should be positioned at a junction, i.e. you should be able to see a road at the very point where the light is planted. You should be able to see a road to the left or to the right of it. So if you see a road to the left and to the right of the light, it shows that that must be a traffic light. Well, it could be a traffic light that has pedestrian crossing built into it with ease. So like now, for example, I need to slow down and stop because I can see a pedestrian crossing at the zebra crossing. Now it's gone center right. There's no one less crossing the road. I'm going to go back on my gas. So that's a good example of pedestrian actually using the zebra crossing in that case. So for example, there's a road ahead of me. I can see a light on red. How can I tell if this light is a pedestrian crossing or a traffic light? I could tell by looking to the right side of it. It looks like there's a road to the right side of it. It looks like there's a road to the left side of it. This must be a crossroad. So I know it's a traffic light. I'm turning left, I'm checking my center left, and it has a box on it. So this is a hybrid one. So this light controls the junction. At the same time, there's a box on the light, so which means it's an hybrid light. There's a box on that one as well. So that's a very good example of an hybrid light, okay? It's a traffic light. How do I know it's a traffic light? Because there's a junction right there. It's a road to the left, road to the right, road ahead, and another road that I'm coming from. So that is a crossroad controlled by the light. It just happened to have a pedestrian crossing built into it, which is called an hybrid light. I want to turn left at the next junction. Let's see. This light I'm seeing here is also a traffic light, but has a box on it. If you look at the box here on the light, there's a man or a person in red, and there's a bicycle. So this is Toucan crossing planted at a traffic light. So it's an hybrid light that has a pedestrian crossing built into it that accommodates the crossing of a pedestrian and a cyclist. That's right there on the. So when this light turns to green, I don't expect any cyclist or any pedestrian to cross the road. There's no one about either, so it's not being activated. So when the light turns to green, happy days, I'm just gonna go. But like, you should always remember, green light, however, means go if it's safe. It is still your responsibility as a driver to ensure that it's actually safe to carry on, because some people don't obey the law to the latter. So even though I've got green, I expect them to be on red. They might still decide to cross the road. So it's still my responsibility to make sure that I don't go if anyone is being funny on the road. So that's a Toucan crossing in summary. Let's see if we can find some more lights. So I can see there's a zebra crossing coming up. Especially in the night, there's this light flashing at the top of it. I've eased up my gas, kind of because there's no one about, I can go back on my gas. I wish they can put light on the black and white bits so that people, it can be almost more, it can be much more obvious from afar. Let's see if we can get some more pedestrian crossing. Center right, just to see what's going on behind me. Now then, I can see another light ahead. Is this a traffic light or pedestrian crossing? It's a bit tricky to tell from where I am, but I'm looking to the left side of the pole of the lights. There's no road there as far as I can be aware. So it's a zebra, it's pedestrian crossing. East of my gas, it's kind of cross. There's no one about. Again, it has a picture of a person there, just a person. It's a Puffin crossing. Now there's another one coming. It's a pedestrian crossing. I'm going to east of the gas. It's kind of cross. There's no one about. The light is not going to check. I'm going to check my center right, pop back on my right gas. That's a Puffin crossing because I can only see a picture of a man there, and it's on red, which means the pedestrians, if they were there, they're instructed to stay on red to wait. That's why I've got the green light to carry on. So at this junction, I want to go straight ahead. And the light, this is a traffic light obviously because there's a road to the right, to the left, but the traffic light has got a box on them, which means that it's an hybrid light. So pedestrian can also use this junction to cross because it's got boxes everywhere. Next off, I can also see another light ahead. This light, is it controlling traffic. There's a road to the left, yes, so it's a traffic light. Has it got a box on it? I can't see that. Yes, it has. So a pedestrian can also cross here. Again, this is an example of an hybrid light, but they know about, so the light is not going to change, so there's no pedestrian anywhere. I can also see another light. What type of light is this? Pedestrian crossing or traffic light? I think it's a traffic light. Again, it has a box on it, and there's a red man on the box. That's a Puffin crossing for me. It's a traffic light controlling tram and pedestrian over there, or traffic I should say. There's another light coming. Is this for traffic? No, this is just a pedestrian crossing, because it's just in between two roads, and also it's a Puffin crossing. There's no one about. I can carry on. The next light, is it a traffic light? I think this is a pedestrian crossing, because it's straight after the junction. It's not actually controlling the junction. I'm going to ease up my gas, scan across. There isn't anyone about. This light is not likely to change. I'm going to go back on my gas. Center right door mirror. This is a traffic light controlling traffic and the tram, I believe. At the moment, I can't see any crossing as far as I can look now, but I can see a light ahead. I'm not sure what that light is, but it's very far from where I am, but I'm trying to forward plan as much as possible. Yes, there's a green light ahead. Is it a traffic light or a pedestrian crossing? It doesn't matter at the moment, because the first thing you do, whether it's a traffic light or pedestrian crossing anyway, is to ease off your gas on approach, just so that you can anticipate if the light will turn to red or not. So I'm going to ease up my gas all the same. It's a pedestrian crossing. I'm going to scan across. I've checked my mirror. There's no one, and it's a Puffin crossing. There's no one about. Center right, back on the gas. Again, there's another light coming. I think this is a pedestrian crossing. I've checked my mirror. There's no one close to me. I'm going to ease up my gas now. Scan across, right to left, left to right. There's no one about. Center right. The light is not going to change. I'm going to go back on my gas. So it's as simple and easy as that. All right. That is how to deal with pedestrian crossing. Now, as simple as it sounds, you need to get this routine spot on during the test if you don't want to have your KFC without chips, right? So that is pedestrian crossing. Let's see if we can get some more to play around with before we end the video. I'm going to do a separate video to talk about the new development about dealing with pedestrians on the road in general. This video is just dedicated for just the crossing, assuming people behave the way they should, and use the crossing, the pedestrian crossing, to actually cross the road. As you know, some people will decide to ignore the pedestrian crossing and just cross the road anywhere they like. And sometimes also it's not the fault of the pedestrian. There is no pedestrian crossing anywhere close to where they are. So they have to use their own judgment to cross the road, particularly at junctions. Some junction round the blocks, there won't be any crossing at all at the junction. So what do you meant to do with those pedestrians when you see them at the junction? I'm going to do a separate video for that. Okay, just click on the like button, subscribe, share this video, so that we are encouraged to drop more driving nuggets that will help you to pass your driving test. So this light here is definitely a traffic light, but also got box on it. So this is also a hybrid light, but there's no pedestrians about, so we're good to go. Now then, already on this road I can see a green light ahead. What type of light that is, not sure just yet. I'm checking my center right door mirror just to update myself with what's going on behind me. I can see a pole. It's a black and white. It looks like it's a zebra crossing. Nope. No, it's controlled by the light. Center mirror, east of my gas, kind of cross. It's a Puffin crossing because I can see the red man on it. There's no one about. Center right, go back on my gas. So far, I think Puffin crossing is winning the chart because that's the most common crossing I've seen so far today. There's one more crossing coming up ahead. I believe there's a green light. So already I'm checking my center mirror. The car behind me is behaving well so far. So I'm going to kind of ease off my gas about 3 car lengths away from that light. Just about now, scan across, right to left, left to right. There's no one about. Center right, the pedestrian there is not crossing. I'm going to go back on my gas. Also, it's a Puffin crossing because there's a red man on that box. Let's do one more. I can also see another green light coming up. Is that a crossing? It does look like a crossing to me because I can see a box on the light. So I'm checking my center mirror. I'm going to ease off my gas, scan across. There's a red man on it. It's a Puffin crossing, but there's no pedestrian about. Center right, back on the gas. Happy days. So I hope this video helps. If it does, please click on the like button, subscribe, share, follow, and all those stuff. We'll see you in the next one. Over and out. Thank you.